A whirlwind couple of hours here for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Nick Saban retiring after a day. He worked the full day, by the way, for the Crimson Tide. As promised, we will break down the top Nick Saban replacements, and this is not an easy man to replace. He's been the Bama head coach since 2007. He won 6 national championships with Alabama. Even if Bama gets a top 5 all-time college football head coach, he wins 4 national titles in 20 years, it's not going to be as good as it was with Saban. So this is not an easy job to fill, even though I think we can argue Alabama is the job in college football. But you're not replacing a guy. You're replacing the guy, and that is very important to remember as we go through this coaching search, this sudden and unexpected coaching search for the Alabama Crimson Tide. We will have you guys covered with all the rumors and news, etc. So make sure you are subbed. Do not miss out. We'll have the head coaching search, the defensive coordinator search that's now apparently going to go on as well with Kevin Steele out too. Maybe more coaching search news, drama on recruits and decommitments. Ryan Williams, by the way, is already decommitted. Hit that sub button for more free Alabama football YouTube videos. At number 10, because he's on so many other lists, is James Franklin of Penn State. Pete Daboll sent out the tweet of hey, here are the buyouts, and then edited it to include James Franklin because he always gets I think it'd be a terrible hire. Franklin is a good coach. He can't win the big game at Penn State. How is he going to win it at Alabama? Number 9, let's talk about 2 NFL head coaches with significant ties to Alabama. Brian Daboll, the current Giants head coach, dealing with some of his own drama these days up there in New York with the whole Don Martindale situation, was the Alabama OC for a year in 2017, then went ahead and jumped over to the Bills OC, now the Giants head coach. The connection to Alabama makes him at least worth mentioning on this list. Number 8, this is a dark horse name no one else has thrown out there. How about DeMeco Ryans? And how about Ryans? He is the current Texans head coach who had spent plenty of time at Alabama. Of course, he played at Alabama. I think this is an under-the-radar name to consider. Ryans has done great stuff with the Houston Texans, only been there for a year, but this is Alabama. I think the argument can be made that the Texans job is not as good as the Alabama coach, but he also played for Houston, so I don't know if he jumped ship quite that. It'd be a stunner, but I did want to mention it. Who do you want as the next Alabama football head coach? This is the pinned comment on today's video, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Now the top 7, and these top 7 names a bit more frequently mentioned. Mike Norvell, who went from hot seat to hot candidate, just like that in a span of 2 years. FSU gets left out in favor of Alabama. Imagine the outcry after then lost their head coach. Mike Norvell, number 7 on our list. Only a $4 million buyout. I think you could do better if you're Alabama, but I think it's a decent name to consider, depending on who they lock in on if they get those first or second big target on their board. Number 6, Kellen DeBoer, the head coach over at Washington. Now, I do think location and regionality matters when it comes to college football head coaching searches. He was at Indiana, now at Washington. He did a fantastic job for the Huskies, almost got them to a college football playoff championship, got into the game, keep it short against Michigan, of course. Great offensive mind. I would be a little bit surprised if he ended up being the name. I think he's kind of in that secondary tier of candidates to consider. All right, number 5 is Dabo Swinney, who, look, Sweeney's had a very interesting career path where he's coached at 2 places. That is it. He has only coached at Clemson and at Alabama. And a couple of years ago, Dabo was the guy, right? Dabo Swinney is going to be the man you hire to replace Nick Saban. And would he even want the job? Would he leave Clemson where he's had so much success? And would he want to be the guy who replaces Saban or the guy who replaces the guy who replaced Saban? It seemed like he had a little mini dynasty going with Clemson. That has not been the case. And frankly, Dabo's refusal to utilize the portal as needed has been a real problem for the Tigers. And I think if you're Alabama right now, despite Dabo being an alum, I don't think he's number one on your list. Now, you got to mention him. I know that. The top 5, I think, are your top favorite contenders. We kind of go back and forth from, could you get him? Do you want him? Could you get him? Do you want him? Dabo, number 5 on our list. Do you want him as the next Alabama head football coach? Y for yes and for no. Go ahead and sound off for me in the comments section right now. Number 4 is Steve Sarkisian. It's kind of funny how, we mentioned the chaos involving Mike Norvell went from hot seat to hot candidate. So did Sark. He has, in a way, the Texas and Bama jobs are not that different. They are challenging jobs. You deal with a lot of politics. And one of the things Saban did so great, he didn't let the boosters run things, which when you're throwing around a bunch of big money, turns out you want to have influence, go figure. And he didn't have any scandals either. That was always 2 big things for Saban. Sark got Texas. He beat Bama. He is one of the he will go down as this upcoming year as the last sitting football head coach to beat Saban, because Harbaugh is going to be off in the NFL, most likely. He's not a candidate, by the way. Sark has coached at Alabama. I think he'd be one of your top fallback options. I think your 2 best secondary tier 2 options for Alabama are Steve Sarkisian, who of course was the Bama OC, and Lane Kiffin. I'm not fully convinced you could convince Sark to leave Texas. I think you could convince Lane Kiffin to leave Ole Miss, head back to Alabama. I think you could. Worth mentioning, by the way, that the buyouts here for Dabo is $7.5 million. Kalen's actually $12 million. The number 1 guy we'll get to here in a little bit, James Franklin, at $6 million. Norvell's only $4 million. Kiffin, you can afford the buyout. You can afford any buyout you want. It's that is Lane Kiffin, who's done a good job at Ole Miss, has recruited well, has maybe caused some drama at previous stops. Is that your number 1 target? I think there are 2 bigger names on the board for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Number 2, and this is the less likely one to get, that's why he's number 2, is Kirby Smart, the Georgia head coach. Now, you'd have to convince Kirby Smart to leave, which right now is the best SEC program. It's Georgia until Saban's replacement is hired. Leave the best SEC school for similar pay and, frankly, your alma mater and more stress. Because Kirby gets more leeway at Georgia because he already won a championship. He would lose that leeway by going to Alabama. So you can call. You can do your backdoor communications, and you know that Jimmy Sexton's going to get a bunch of these guys paid, by the way. Even if Bama settles on their guy, Sexton might make them wait and get other clients paid beforehand. You call about Kirby. Do I think you get him? No. Do you call? Absolutely. I think that the potentially concerning part here is if you don't get the guy you want, which early rumors are there's one guy. I'm going to get to that momentarily. But this is a tough job. You're replacing the GOAT of college football coaching. That is not an easy thing to do. It's a challenging thing to do. And whoever you hire, he's not going to be good as Saban. It is not going to be the same anymore. So how worried are you about Nick Saban's retirement from Alabama? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1, doesn't matter. We're going to win the national championship next year. We're fine. 10, it's going back to the Shula Dark Ages. Sound off for me in the comments section right now. At number 1, it is Dan Lanning. The initial early inclination is that Lanning is the favorite to get this job. There are ties, I should say, to the Alabama program. I almost used the word, which is kind of wrong there. Lanning was a GA at Alabama in 2015. He quickly rose to Georgia defensive coordinator in 2019 and the Oregon head coach in 2022, 10-3, 12-2. He's done a really good job with the Oregon Ducks. He's recruited properly. He's handled the portal stuff very well. He's only 37 years old. He is viewed, whether correctly or incorrectly, as like the next young, impressive head coach. And if you hire Lanning, Alabama's hoping he's there for like 20 years. And he's the next great Bama coach long time. His buyout, by the way, $20 million. It's expensive. Alabama can afford it. We will have more updates for you, rumors, etc., here on the channel as Bama begins the most intriguing college football coaching search since the last time the job was open, which, fun fact, by the way, the last head coach your AD hired, Greg Byrne, was Rich Rod. It's not going to happen this time, by the way, but almost happening for Bama a few years ago, too. Hit that sub button for more updates, youtube.com/@RollTideTV.